The religion of Islam prides itself in its opposition to racism, emphasizing equality of individuals, irrespective of their racial or ethnic backgrounds. So much so that the Quran clearly states the worth of an individual is determined by their piety, not the color of their skin, or their wealth, or their social status. Furthermore, Islam has notable companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam who were dark in complexion, yet given roles of huge importance. An example widely used is Bilal ibn Rabah, the official mu'adhin of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Here in the UK, the Race Relations Act of 1965 effectively banned racial discrimination in public places and made the promotion of hatred on the grounds of colour, race, or ethnic or national origins an offence. Now, if you come to our mosques and our centres and approach any individual and ask them if they accept people from all backgrounds, often they recoil in disgust at the mere thought of them being labelled racist. After all, Islam promotes equality, right? Now, my guest, Mullah Rashid Haider, a prominent reciter and resident of East London of African descent, suggests otherwise, as he gave me first-hand accounts of subtle racism that exists in our communities. Mullah Rashid, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Mullah Ali, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. Honored to be here.
No problem. Well, of course, for the sake of security, we won't mention specific mosques or names or locations yet. When was your first experience from memory of racism in our communities?
Probably could say it from a very, very young age, to be honest. Obviously, there's times where I'd be going to centers, I'd be seeing that sometimes I was a bit pushed out of the main kind of circle at times, or it's like, someone's walked in, he's a bit different to us. But from a very young age, to be honest, I started seeing certain little things, little subtle hints. But yeah, it's something that has been on for a little while.
Where did you predominantly grow up? Obviously, it was in London. Was your local centre a very mixed, diverse centre?
Yeah, so I grew up in a very mixed centre. So it's like Pakistanis, Iraqis, Khajas, Africa. You had the full package. Everyone was basically there. So at least in that aspect, it helped because, got people from the community, they saw all types of people. So it wasn't like it was something new. But growing up, obviously, it was a mixed community. But obviously, then again, you still have people who, might not have seen people from Africa or from Iraq or from Pakistan. So it was all like a very, very new experience for a lot of people.
So can you give us a specific example? And I guess I don't want you to be very. We'll have to be a bit sensitive, but can you give us an example of a very subtle, or even on the opposite side of that, a very clear example of racism that you encountered in our communities in London or up north?
I remember I went to one centre in London. Obviously, we're not going to mention centres, but went to one centre in London, and I've arrived, and I'm going to recite. But obviously, I don't think this man, obviously, he knew that I was there to recite. But I had to obviously pray. So I went to the bathroom. I went to do wudu, and we bumped into each other in the bathroom. And assalamu alaikum, alaikum salam, how are you? Just have a little small chat, small conversation. And then he goes to me. He's like, so what brings you here today? I'm like, obviously, it's the event. And he's like to me, instantly he starts off. He's like, how long have you been a Muslim for? I'm like,
wow.
I'm like, what do you mean? How long have I been a Muslim for? He's like, yeah, how long have you been a Muslim for? I'm like, I was born Muslim, born Shia. He's like, oh, mashallah, mashallah. So then he's like, the Imams? I'm like, yeah, of course. He's like, obviously rulings and stuff in Islam. And then after, I remember even when I was doing wudu, he was really, really watching me as if he was like a teacher, making sure that, I was doing things properly. But you could tell it was like this individual, he's walked in, I don't know. I'm not too sure. Let me ask him questions, suss him out a bit.
Yeah,
But like that was something that obviously is clear to you. It's like, like there was no need for such a questionnaire to ask him
yeah,
so many questions, and then after while I'm then doing wudu to be watching me. But then the interesting thing is after I've recited now, he's come up to me. He's like, mashallah, we didn't know that you were a reciter. We didn't know that. Um, you could read the way you did, and
oh
I'm like,
wow,
I don't think it matters who I am, or what I might be at the end of the day. Just
yeah.
because I'm a person
So
coming to the center, that should be enough, no?
Mullah, people, people are not intentionally racist. So why do you think these incidents occur? Why do you think people will come up to you and ask certain questions to suss you out, quote unquote?
I think some people maybe they have grown up in a community in an environment where maybe they might not see um, maybe people like me, because for some reason sometimes it is like a bit of a phenomenon for them, and they're actually genuinely happy because maybe they've grown up in an area where they've just grown up around, I don't know, a certain type of people. But
Yeah,
sometimes these issues, I think they occur because it's like, and this is for me personally speaking. I think it's obviously if someone different has come, and they want to ask questions, they want to see what's going on. At the same time, yes, sometimes it is a thing where it can be genuine interest, but I think other times it's a thing where it's what's going on here.
in terms of Mullah, in terms of, because so that was early in your life. Maybe perhaps you weren't that exposed to different communities, and especially when it comes to your recitations and your
Yeah.
career in that world. But now, do you feel any of that subtle racism now after you are pretty much well known in the UK and abroad?
I mean, yeah, still a bit. It's not obviously as much as before, but I think that is obviously to do with because of maybe who I am or because of who my father is, for example. So a lot of
Okay.
the time it's like, mashallah, how's your father doing, this and that. Sometimes obviously I'll go into certain places and you'll see two guys talking, have a look, and then start laughing between one another. Obviously you get that still. But I think what it is, it's because I still have a lot of friends who obviously are African, yet
Yeah.
they go to certain centers and they still feel as if they can be treated differently. They can be
Yeah.
felt as if this guy's an outsider. So we're gonna question him a bit. We're gonna ask him a few different questions. I still
Yeah.
I still speak to lots of friends that tell me this, and to a certain extent, it pushes them away from going to the centers because of this. Yes, I do still certainly receive it here and there, but I could say, yeah, probably because of what I do now, that might have
Yeah.
died down a bit. But still, at the same time, it's like I don't think that matters. I don't think that's the way it should be. I think
Yeah.
regardless of whether your race is, or regardless of the person that you are, if you're entering to a center, it should be very, very open and inclusive to everyone.
Mullah, how does that make you feel?
Um, it's an interesting one. Obviously, you feel very upset because you feel like, what are you doing wrong? Is there something that you're doing wrong? Why do people look at you because of your skin color, for example? Why do people think that you're different? Because like you mentioned earlier, we had a lot of Sahaba who were a different race, who had very important roles, and obviously when you look at Islam and the Quran, it speaks about this. So it's
Yeah.
not something that's new. It's not something that people don't know about.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm just thinking, and I'm playing devil's advocate here. I've seen you in your social circles,
Yeah,
and I've seen you interact with your peers, and sometimes what I've noticed is there might be subtle, and let's be honest here. There are subtle racism jokes that occur to you or occur to your friends. However, what I've seen from other people is that they just laugh it off. And what that
yeah,
does is that it gives license to the people that are doing it, because the person on the receiving end has laughed it off.
yeah.
They feel like they can do it again and again and again. How does that impact the subtle racism within our community?
I think obviously having that, like you mentioned, it obviously opens up a few more doors for like a few more jokes, a bit more comments, kind of, if you'd like to say, because obviously
Yeah.
that's the danger with having little subtle jokes and having these kind of comments is that next time when a new person comes in, and then certain jokes are being made, it creates that environment for, oh, okay, so he's okay with it, meaning probably everyone else is okay with it.
Yeah.
If this guy hasn't said anything, it probably means that, yes, we are taking the mick a bit, but they're fine with it, so it's okay. We'll kind of just continue how it is. But
Mullah,
then
is it
obviously we'll
okay?
apologize to him after. Sorry?
Is it okay?
No, of course it's not okay. Of course it's not okay. I think it's something that needs to stop, and I think that more awareness probably needs to be brought in because a lot of people might laugh it off. But this is the thing: a lot of people might laugh it off, and you might just think, "Oh, okay, he's okay with the joke." But really, it might be something that's hurt him. Might be something that he's not too happy to hear. But it's he's just laughing it off because he doesn't want to deal with any conflict, any sort of problems.
Yeah. Now, you can answer this question if you like. You can literally tell me pass. But in
Yeah.
terms of the communities that you have visited,
Mm.
which community would you say is the most outwardly, subtly racist, if that makes sense? The very obviously but not obviously racist.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think I think that one I might pass. That one I might
Okay, no
pass.
worries. So, okay,
Yeah.
internationally, you told me about a very harrowing story over the weekend. I was literally, I
Mm.
was very, very taken aback. And for this, you can mention if you like the country that you visited. Actually, you know what? Don't mention the country that you visited. But what happened in internationally when you visited a country? Tell us about that
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. I visited a certain country, um, and it's a country that obviously a lot of us have visited before. And we went to like a certain park. So there was lots of activities there, and it's a place that a lot of people visit whenever they go to this country. So I was with a group. We traveled with a group, and we went to. So there's like a sauna, there's a steam room, there's a bunch of things going on here. So people had left, and I was just basically finishing up, and I was coming outside as well. And I remember a guy. He walked up to me. He walked up with his friends. Now I don't speak the language that he was speaking. He's walked up with his friends. Hi, assalamu alaikum, laughing about, joking, whatever. Um, and then I remember he's got his finger and he's like touched me like this. He's touched me and then like he's looked and he's laughed and he's walked off. Now obviously I'm not thinking here what's just happened, but he's obviously done this as if like subhanallah, astaghfirullah, it's like paint. Um and then
Wow.
he's walked off. He's walked off and he's laughed with his friends. Now I haven't thought about this. Obviously, the leader that we were with, I told him about 10-15 minutes later what had just happened, and he was shocked and he walked back to this area to see if he could find this person. But um, at the time, I didn't because I was a lot younger. I didn't understand what had just happened. But then when obviously I was speaking to someone, it was like that was clear to see that he's obviously saw me and he's thought, this guy is number one. He's different too. Astaghfirullah, you'd think that someone's painted him,
Wow.
and that's why he's different to us.
That really is horrible. I'm sorry you had to
Mm.
go through that. I think it's probably a lack of exposure to different cultures and different backgrounds. There is no justification to it whatsoever. It is very, very clearly racist. Now, whether he knows he's doing it or not is another issue. But you mentioned very interesting that you spoke to someone about the
Yeah,
situation. So I'm going to take a small break. If we can think about that topic for now, I'm going to take a small break, Mullah. After the break, we're going to speak to Mullah Rashid, who's speaking about his horrible experiences when it comes to subtle racism in our community, and we're going to talk about whether he's actually spoken to people about this and what they've done to rectify any of these situations. So, will join me in a couple of minutes. Welcome back, dear viewers, to Morning Barakah exclusively on Imam Hussein TV 3. If you're just joining us, we have on the line Mulla Rashid Haider, a prominent reciter both here in the UK and abroad. But he's talking about his private experiences when it comes to subtle racism in our community. Now, there's no question about it. Mulla Rashid is coloured, dark, black. I'm going to ask Mulla what are the terms that we are supposed to be using in this day and age. However, he's a reciter of dark complexion, and often is the case that he gets invited by Iraqis, Khojis, Pakistanis, and Afghanis, even Iranians. And so, there is subtle racism when it comes to maybe jokes or maybe questioning him why he's there. But Mulla, you're still on the line? Fantastic. So look, Mulla, you mentioned before the break that, there was a certain horrible experience that happened to you in a different country where someone actually put their finger on you to wipe to see if that was actually a paint or a color to determine the color of your skin. Now, you mentioned that you've spoken to someone about it. Have you ever addressed these issues with anyone?
I have addressed these issues. Obviously, mainly I do speak a lot to my father, specifically when it comes to these things, because he's been through a lot of things as well himself, and he just always tells me, look, at the end of the day, you get a lot of people that might not be as educated, they might not know. Some people, obviously, it's a thing where they know what they're doing, but they're still going to do it. At the end of the day, just stay calm, keep raising awareness, keep talking about it, and I think pulling people up on certain things that they do, I think is also important. I think it's definitely important to obviously speak to people whenever something's happened, so that obviously they know that it's not okay and that needs to change. Because I think a lot of people might just blindly do it and not understand that, this is something that's actually affecting people, or this is something that is just outright racism and that you shouldn't do it. So, yeah, I've spoken to my dad, I've spoken to other scholars as well, a lot of other people, and yeah, they've given me little bits and pieces of advice, but I guess you can't really control a lot of situations, so it's just kind of going along with it and just seeing what can be done.
What about your extended family? I'm not sure if you have brothers, sisters. What are their experiences like when it comes to the community?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I mentioned, my father, for example, he's had some interesting situations as well before, and obviously now him being a sheikh, he wears an amama. And everyone, you'd see a sheikh, yet still it's a thing where people they still have their questions, still have my little comments here and there. I remember we went to a certain place, and people were like, Sheikh Zakzaki, Sheikh Zakzaki, Sheikh Zakzaki. And it's like, come on guys, we know exactly who he is, we know exactly who my dad is, so it's not a thing where you can even make that as a mix-up, for example. And I have sisters as well. They've had experiences within the community, a lot of experiences which have opened their eyes up a lot more, which have sometimes pushed them away from maybe going to certain events. But yeah, in the gist of it,
so you're saying your sisters have not stopped but minimized them going to majalis because of this issue?
Yeah, so I mean, certain places they might be a bit more wary about going to. They might, they might not feel as comfortable. They'll still go, because obviously the environment that we've grown up in is that obviously, there's a majlis, you go. There's a lecture, you go. There's a nice program, you go. So at the same time, they haven't stopped, but obviously sometimes it puts a bit of doubt. What if I go to this place, something's gonna happen? What if I go to that place, something's gonna happen? And for them, it's obviously a bit different to me, because me, it's like I'm someone who I will go regardless, and whether someone says something or not, I don't really care. But obviously for them, I don't want them to be going through something like that, because it can affect them, or they can feel a certain way, and then next time they might not want to go to a certain place,
No, absolutely. So, I mean, what have you personally done to cope with these experiences? They might be far and few between, as in it could be once, twice a year that it happens, but when it does happen, it affects you. So what are the steps that you can take? Anyone else out there that's listening to this, what could they do to help cope with these situations?
I think um, obviously, talking about it is something that's very important. I think definitely if you've got someone that you can speak to,
Yeah.
definitely speak to someone, speak to a scholar, and get obviously their take on the situations. Because, like for example, me back in the day, I might not have known what to do. I might not have known exactly what to say. But now, obviously, when you speak to more people, and especially raising awareness, which is something that can help, um, a lot more people are more tuned in and more understand that this is actually a problem and it's something that needs to be sorted out. But then again, saying that, we're not saying that everyone is bad. We're not saying that I mean, every community has their own issues. Every community might have people that are a certain way, but that's not to say that everyone is bad.
Yeah.
But obviously, again, like these things happen, and I think it's important to speak about them. I think speaking is definitely important, firstly, and then obviously acting upon it depending on how you do. Also,
Muna, has the color of your skin ever limited your opportunities within the community?
no, no, I wouldn't say that. I definitely wouldn't say that. I think, alhamdulillah, obviously, the communities that I've dealt with, all of them have been, like organizers wise, have been quite welcoming.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of them, whenever I get invited to certain places, that's not really on their agenda of his the color of his skin or the kind of person that he is. It's more just we've seen someone who serves the Ahlul Bayt and someone that we'd like to come to our center and to, I don't know, recite for us or to read a dua, whatever it might be. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that it's limited me. No, alhamdulillah. I think these obviously with the blessings and the barakat of the Ahlul Bayt that has helped me to continue with this service. But
Yeah.
definitely wouldn't say that it's limited me. But obviously throughout that you've had experiences and whatnot.
Let's extend this out to the wider society, so not within our communities, i.e., for example, university and work. Um, do you feel any racism there?
No, I mean I work in a pretty mixed environment. So the office that I work in has it's got people, it's got black people, it's got white people, it's got Asians, it's got everyone that you can possibly think of. So in that environment, it's quite interesting to learn about other cultures, and this is something that I wanted to mention is because within the company I work for, they're very big on being inclusive and having diversity, and they also say that look, if you need to speak to someone, and they also have events throughout the year where they talk about racism and this and that and diversity and whatnot. And me myself, while obviously being in a community where I'm seeing a lot of different people, I've also learned a lot as well. Um, Something that I might have heard back from the past, about a certain type of community when I've met them and I've spent time with them. I've come to realize, yeah, you know what? No, they're not like that. They're a lot different to what I might have thought they are. So within universities, within schools, I think having that massive environment of lots of mixed people and people mingling and having conversations has made a lot of people realize that, I might have thought a certain thing about a certain community, but really, when I sit there and I speak to them, I'm like, hang on a minute, what? He's quite a sound guy, there's nothing wrong with him. So, yeah, obviously being in that environment has helped a lot.
Okay. So how can then, if you go back to the community, how can the community help in mitigating or minimizing these experiences for you?
I think raising awareness first and foremost is very important. I think a lot of people don't really speak about racism. I think when you look at the topic of racism, a lot of people go, "Oh, that's something that happens a lot. Brush it off," kind of thing. So I think it's important to speak about it. I think to raise awareness is definitely important, and I think the biggest blessing and the biggest gem that we have is the Ahlul Bayt. Rasulullah has spoken about so many different things, has advised us on a lot of different things, specifically when it comes to this. And I think number one, just looking at what he said and taking his words, I think that's a massive thing that
Yeah.
we need to do. But obviously, at the same time, it's raising awareness, having these talks, having these conversations with people, and
Yeah.
actually like allowing people to see that this is something that, because again, like I mentioned earlier, some people might think that it's okay, but really it's not okay. Some people might think that, you know, it's because I used to do it 4 years ago that now it's okay. It wasn't okay 4 years ago. It's not okay now. So I think definitely raising awareness, speaking to people, having more
And
conversations about.
has anyone ever come to you telling you about racism that they've experienced?
Yeah, like I told you earlier, I mean, I've got a lot of friends who are African, a lot of friends who have had experiences within different communities. And again, I'll mention that it's not every single, and I'm not saying everyone's bad. I'm not saying that, you know, everyone has given me a terrible experience. I've had very good experiences with every single community, but obviously you've had bad experiences as well. But a lot of people have told me of their experiences. They always ask me, "How do you deal with things?" Because I think, you know, for someone who might have a bit more, I don't know, let's say exposure than them, they might think, oh, at the same time, you know, you must go through it more. But really, it's even those people that they just come to a majlis and go home, they receive a lot of different things as well. But
Yeah.
yeah, I've had lots of conversations with people. They ask me about what I think. I try to advise them in the best way possible.
What what about online social media? Have you seen anything? Any comments made on
Oh
social
yeah,
media?
yeah.
Really?
Social media is a big one. Yeah, I think TikTok is a very interesting one. I so literally just this Muharram that passed, I was in Canada, and certain clips were being posted, obviously of my Latmiyas and whatnot, and some were going far and wide. A lot of people, because obviously I was reciting in Arabic and I was reciting in English, so for those Iraqis or those people that speak Arabic, you know, like for a lot of them, it's like, wow, this is incredible. You know, someone that doesn't speak Arabic is reciting in Arabic, and they really
Yeah.
like this. But then again, at the
Yeah.
same time, there was a lot of comments of you know, who's this guy? Why is he doing this? Why is this? Why is that? Talking about the color of my skin. And it came to a point where literally the admin of this TikTok account, who's my very good friend in Canada, was literally waking up and pressing delete because every day there was just an influx of messages and things, and even Shia voice. There was lots of things going on. It came to a point where even my sister, my younger sister, she comes up to me one day and she's like Rashid, what's she's like, why do so many people say so much stuff about you? And I'm like to her, I'm like, you know, this you know, in that situation, what do you say, you know? So it's a thing where obviously I just speak to them, and obviously I tell them about my experiences, and alhamdulillah my dad advises me here and there as well. But yeah, social media we've seen quite a crazy number of comments and things like that.
Mullah, there's something that I just remembered, which is horrible. And I was in, again, I'm not going to name the country, but I was in a certain country and in a certain community, and one of the brothers that I was with, he was Arab, and so he said to me, oh look, this. I forgot the context of it, but he basically said, and he referred to a person of colored skin, a black person. He said to him, he said, oh, this Abid has walked in. Now I'm not sure, you know what the word, you speak Arabic, and Abid is technically the word for slave. So we have Abdullah, the servant of Allah, Abd. So and it didn't register to me what he was saying, because in my world, you know, if you refer to someone who, as an Arab growing up, if you refer to someone as black, you say Aswad, in Hadal Aswad, right? Or as a black person. But Abid, I've never ever, in that time, I never ever heard anyone referring to another person, let alone a black person, but another person as a Abid, a slave. So I said to him, what did you say? And he said, yeah, the Abid just walked in. I'm like, hold on, are you calling this person Abid? He goes, yeah, that's what we call them. So this is not just subtle racism. This is outward, overt racism, in the sense that we are referring to a whole race of people as Abid. I'm not sure
Yeah.
if this word is not used, but how does that make you feel?
yeah, obviously that's something quite crazy. I think, yeah, I mean, look, it's not something that when you hear it, it makes you feel good, or it's something that
Of course not, no.
you hear and you're like, this is these are the kind of things that I guess need to be spoken about, and that's why I say raising awareness, because someone like that, maybe he might have been saying this for such a long time, and until he saw you, or until you were there and you called him up on it, he might not have said anything.
Yeah,
Might not have thought, hang on a minute, maybe should I still be saying that kind of thing.
yeah. Have you come across
I mean,
anything like that before? Anything as overt and open?
um, I wouldn't say something as bad as that. No, I mean, there's been like obviously certain jokes and stuff, but no, nothing as crazy as that. No, I'll be honest. No.
So, Mulla, you mentioned your social media presence. I've noticed some accounts in the Middle East who have posted your latmiyat. In a way, it's like they're fascinated. Is that what you're talking about when it comes to subtle racism? Is the fascination with a person of colored skin reciting the same way as Basim al-Karbala'i, or the classic tunes of Mullah Hamza al-Zaghayr? Is that fascination what you're talking about when it comes to subtle racism? Is that it?
Um. Yes and
Or
no.
you don't
I,
mind the fascination? It's just how does it work?
I'd say no. I'd say no because a lot of people like that I've spoken to that might have come up to me and praised me for a recitation, have been like, like we only hear Iraqis, for example, recite in a certain way, and
Yeah,
for now you come here and to recite, and to sometimes be, maybe I don't even recite better than them. Some people are like, wow, this is we're really impressed and we're really happy, and a lot of people have offered support and help, and um, for example, even maybe certain reciters have offered, for example, coaching and mentoring. But then on the flip side, it's like I get people asking me, I didn't know you guys could recite this way, and not in like for example, you can recite Arabic. It's I didn't know that a black guy can read, kind of thing.
oh wow.
So yeah. So for example, on the flip side, it's a thing where it's like people are like, hang on a minute, I didn't know that this is doable. I didn't even know that there was black shears. I didn't even know, so
Yeah,
it goes on and on and on. So that, I think, depending on how people go about it, can be certain subtle racism, little subtle
yeah.
comments. Because some people, yes, for example, they're very supportive and are happy to see what they're seeing, and other people, it's, how is it that someone who's black can read
Yeah.
like this or can do?
Mullah, really, really appreciate your time. Where are you right now?
I'm currently in Manchester. I'm here for a three. Well, I'm here for 3 nights, but it's a 5 night majlis with Muhibban, MYF, and yeah, alhamdulillah, had the first night last night, went really well, and inshallah got tonight and tomorrow night as well.
Do you know, the reason why I asked you is because I wanted to show the people that no matter what, it doesn't really matter the color of the skin, but you're doing so fantastically well that you're in Manchester now. You've got a 3 night majlis. You've been invited to ziyarah, if I'm not mistaken, from a specific group. You were in Bradford maybe a week ago or a couple of days ago. I'm not
Yeah,
sure. So look, hats off to you, Mullah. Keep doing what you're doing. It's fantastic to see, and a big inspiration. Thank you so much for your time.
Habib Mullah, thank you very much. Appreciate it, and yeah, inshallah, we'll see you soon. Take care.
Fantastic. That was Mulla Rashid Haider, a prominent reciter here in the UK as well as abroad. He mentioned that he was in Canada. He does travel, reciting for the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, speaking about his horrible and not so horrible experiences when it comes to subtle racism in our community. However,